Greetings, dear friends. Welcome to another edition of Next Week. I try to look at particular saints as well as the first edition, which is an overview of the whole week. But I try to pick out a few of special interest from my own situation and background. So I've chosen two Serbian saints from the 20th century, the period of the Second World War. That is Holy Priest-martyr Sava Bishop of Gornja Karlovac, and Priest-martyr George Božić. So I've used a website called Crveni Kalendar. This is a Serbian Orthodox online calendar. And to get the best information, the most detailed information, what I've done is I've used Google Translate to translate the Serbian version, because the English version is sort of shortened, edited, and so on. So you get the full account by doing that. So the link is in the blog, which is linked in the description. So we'll go straight to it with some extracts from the life of Holy Priest-martyr Sava, who was the Bishop of Gornja Karlovac. So the bishop was born in 1884, and he studied theology in Sremski Karlovici, and graduated from the Faculty of Law in Belgrade. So that was his early life. And he became a bishop in, I think, 1934. Okay, so I'm not going to read all the accounts. I'm just going to start really as it was in the Second World War. So he was in residence in Plashka. And when the Ustashas arrived, the Ustasha were the soldiers of the new Catholic state of Croatia, and they arrived. They took power apparently from the Italians in that region, and the Bishop Sava was declared a hostage of the new Catholic state of Croatia. And then there's a list here of other priests who were taken hostage at the same time. And so I'll carry on with the narrative after that. So on May the 23rd, 1941, the Ustashas came to the bishop's palace, evicted Bishop Sava, and loaded all the furniture from the palace onto trucks and took it to Ogulin. On June the 8th, the Ustashas, a prisoner of war and a major criminal, Josip Tomljanovic, came to the bishop's palace with a group of Ustashas. He immediately ordered the Ustasha detachment, which had come with him, to hand over the diocesan money and securities. He ordered Bishop Sava to immediately leave the office because his presence is neither desirable nor necessary. The Ustasha, Josip Tomljanovic, ordered Bishop Sava to immediately leave Plashki and to go to Serbia. Bishop Sava refused to do so, and on that occasion he emphasized to him that he was the legal bishop of Gornja Karlovac, and that he could not leave his diocese, and that they could do whatever they wanted to him. So he was arrested on June the 17th, 1941. 13 prominent Serbs from Plashki were also arrested with him. The priests Bogoljub Gakovic, Đuro Stojanovic, and Stanislav Nasadil were also arrested. The Ustashas took them and imprisoned them in Josip Tomljanovic's stable, which was guarded by armed Ustasha soldiers. All the prisoners, especially Bishop Sava, were terribly tortured and abused every day. They remained in Josip Tomljanovic's stable for a little over a month. On July the 19th, 1941, the Ustashas tied up the prisoners, lined them up 2 by 2, and took them to the Plashka railway station to be sent by train to Gospić. They spent time in the Plashka railway station from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. The hardest time was for Bishop Sava, who, although he was changed, was not even allowed to sit down and rest. Bishop Sava and a group of Plashka new martyrs arrived in Gospic on July the 20th, 1941. From the Gospic railway station, they were taken to the Gospic prison, where they were terribly tortured and humiliated. Bishop of Zahumlje Herzegovina, Dr. Atanasia Jevtic, in his book The Serbian Church in World War II, states that Bishop Sava was seen in the courtyard of the Gospic penal institution on August the 8th, 1941. He was tied up and exposed to the rain. Bishop Sava endured his torture stoically and calmly. In mid-August 1941, about 2,000 Serbs were taken out of the Gospic penal institution, tied up with wire in pairs, and taken along the road to Velebit. Bishop Sava Truljajic was also in that group. It is assumed that Bishop Sava was killed on Velebit because, as Bishop Atanasia states, according to the testimony of some Italian journalists, about 8,000 Serbs were killed in Velebit in August in 1941. There is no other information about the martyrdom of Bishop Sava Truljajic of Gornja Karlovac. The Holy Synod of the Serbian Orthodox Church intervened several times during the war for Metropolitan Peter and Bishop Sava without success. Priest Jovan Silashki published his memory of Bishop Sava Truljajic and a testimony about his suffering in an issue of Banatski Vesnik, the magazine of the Banat Diocese, under the title, "I give my head, but I do not give my people." In the following lines, we cite part of his testimony. In 1941, a terrible Ustasha reign of terror took hold on the Diocese of Gornji Karlovac. The priests and the bishop were told that they were no longer wanted and that they had to leave their faithful and their people. Archbishop Alojzije Stepinac openly told the bishop that he had to leave Croatian Karlovac, otherwise he would be liquidated. To this the bishop replied, "I give my head, but I do not abandon my people." It was immediately clear that the archbishop was not joking. Bishop Sava was arrested and terribly tortured. During his torture in Plashko, the Ustasha sang, "All of you who are born in Christ, you have put on Christ." So that's a sort of mockery that they're mocking. This is a song that we sing in Orthodoxy, and obviously they were mocking that. When the bishop was taken to the execution site after the torture, his mother stood by the church and waited for him to be escorted. She wanted to see her son one more time and say goodbye to him. However, the torturers did not allow her to do so. The bishop nevertheless blessed his mother with his hands tied and went to his death. A few years later, an unknown man stopped by the church in Basaid, where Bishop Sava served as the local parish priest. He met the then postmaster, Sava Saravoltsa. Sava, by the way, had been a long-time singer in the Basaid church, and he proudly emphasized this. "Did you know Bishop Sava Truljajic?" Asked a stranger from Saravoltsa. "I heard there was a priest in Basaid." "Of course, the bishop educated me. I'm grateful to him for everything I've achieved in my life." Then he asked the stranger, "How do you know the bishop?" The stranger answered, "I was a direct witness to his suffering. The Ustasha torturer brought the bishop to a meadow and continued the torture. They flayed him alive and sprinkled salt on him. Then they buried him in the ground. Only his head was visible. Then they dragged an iron harrow and dragged it over his head until he gave up his soul to God. I don't know anything more. It is possible that the Ustasha threw him into one of the many pits in that area, Serbian graves. So not even death separated him from his people." The stranger turned and left, and Sava remained petrified, unable to ask his name. So that was the account of the martyrdom of Bishop Sava. And we also have the account of the same for priest-martyr Đorde. Đorde was born on February 6, 1911 in Pakrac. He completed his junior high school in Nova Gradiška and theological seminary in Sarajevo. He served in parishes in Maja, Bolmaca, from where he was transferred to Našice in 1940, where World War II found him. And his ordeal is recorded in Victor Noves's great work Magnum Crimen, published Zagreb 1948. And this is from pages 641 to 642. On the night of June the 17th, 1941, Felix Lachner and Milcom from Našice broke into the apartment of Priest Božić with 2 other Ustashas and invited him to immediately come with them for questioning. Bogić obeyed the order and got into the car that was waiting in front of his apartment and immediately set off in the direction of the field. He was thus driven to a pasture outside Nasica near the chapel of St. Martin, where he was killed. After having been subject to great torture, the Ustashas tied him to a tree and cut off his ears, nose, tongue, and beard with the skin. After this, they gouged out his eyes, cursing him with the most derogatory expressions. Finally, one of the Ustashas cut open his chest and stomach, and having taken out his intestines, wrapped them round his neck. Only then did Priest Bogić completely collapse, so the Ustashas cut the rope that tied him to the tree, and he fell to the ground, where they finally beat him with rifles. The main culprit for the martyrdom is the Roman Catholic priest from Nasica, Sidonia Schultz. One of the witnesses stated, he, Father Schultz, had our local priest, Đorde Bogić, killed in the most brutal way. They took him out of his apartment in the middle of the night and butchered him. The body of the priest, Đorde, remained in that place all night until the next afternoon. At around 4 p.m., the gypsies were ordered to take him to the Brežic colony and bury him in the cemetery. At the regular session of the Holy Council of the Bishops of the Serbian Orthodox Church in 1998, Archpriest George Đorde Bogić, the priest from Nasica, was proclaimed priest-martyr and entered as a saint in the names of all the saints. So those are the 2 accounts of martyrs from the Second World War period. And apologies for any sort of inelegance or so forth in the text. It's a machine translation of the Serbian, but I hope it's of use and edification to you. So thanks very much for your attention. Wish you all the best for the coming days.